All right, this is Tim Cain on Insecurity, something that I've seen in a lot of fellow game designers and had myself. I think every new game developer probably has a ton of insecurity because it is such a competitive industry where if you are the lucky one out of 100 or even thousands to be chosen for a job, you don't want to jeopardize that in any way. And so you have a lot of insecurities of, do I deserve this? Am I good enough? I'm surrounded by people that are so much better than me that if I make one mistake, they could just replace me. They might even be able to do my job. Why are they giving me this chance? There's a lot of insecurities as being in game dev, and I think there is just generally in life, right? And it's difficult to deal with. It's difficult to feel confident when you know that there are people that are so much better at what you do. And I think everybody struggles with it to some extent.
Hi, everyone. It's me, Tim.
Hi, Tim.
Today, I want to talk about insecurity.
Yeah.
This is going to be an interesting video
Okay.
because it may be a little rambly, but it's something I've been thinking about for almost a year. And let me tell you why. So, I've talked on this channel on many different videos about why people have said they didn't really like working with me. I've heard back. Now, a lot of people may not like working with me, but they didn't tell me directly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat. I know that I've mentioned this before, but I'm for some reason friends with a lot of people who are on the autism spectrum. And I think I know why. I think there's not only things that they like about me, but there are things that I like about them, and we just end up getting along like peanut butter and jelly, right? And a lot of the people that aren't part of this generally don't like me because I'm a little bit too brash in some cases, or they don't like that I am so undiplomatic when it comes to game development. And sometimes I've seen that some of my managers think that the way that I act in development is the same way that I will act with publishers, right? And so sometimes I have been withheld from interacting with that B2B sphere because they think that person A is going to act like this in this scenario too, and that's not the case, of course. But try explaining that to people when their main view of you is you in this scenario, not this one, right? But the reason I think that I'm friends with a lot of people on the spectrum is because they are the same way. They are just openly honest about things. They will say something is bad if they think it's bad. But they're not doing that because they want to hurt your feelings or they want to bring you down or anything. It's that they, in some cases, can't help it. Or in some cases, that's just part of their personality now at this point in their lives where they just want to make a good game in a lot of cases. They have a lot of passion for game development. They have a lot of passion for what they do. And they just want to say it so that it can get fixed. But I think that for some people that can lead to insecurity potentially about feeling like they have a hard time fitting in at places where you're expected to have this level of diplomacy or toxic positivity where stating something is bad can just bring upon a whole world of pain on you, and it's better to shut up. And I've been told by people that I should just shut up and not voice my concerns. If you're one of those people, just know it will never happen. It will never happen.
I've heard this from people who ended up liking working with me, but understood why others didn't, or may have talked to people who didn't.
I've been in that case too.
The two biggest ones that I've heard were that I get very passionate about my ideas, and in doing so, other people's ideas get dismissed, whether I'm intending to do that or not.
It happens.
It doesn't feel good when your idea gets brushed aside.
Nope.
Because I'm, all excited to talk
Yeah,
about my idea.
you're just in the moment, and that is especially true in like the high level of the game's development, right? Where you are just trying to find bare game ideas, and anybody can have a really good game idea. But it's one of those things. Again, you have to defend the vision, and it's tough. But I get it. I get being really passionate and inadvertently stepping on the toes of somebody, or even in a way that you didn't think. This question: how you import a mesh where it faces Y location? They tell me all the problems with my mesh and not tell me how to import it facing Y location. I am like, what? yeah. It's like, come on, just teach me. Like we will all get better. So, but it's a part of that too is just like the team that you're working with. That some people can be so competitive or so insecure in some cases that they will defend their own knowledge because they fear that by sharing it, they will become less valuable to the team. And that's such a dangerous, dangerous way of thinking that I've been in for most of my career in game development. Like I said, I've been insecure. I am still insecure about things. But I've learned, at least within the past few years, very heavily that by sharing my knowledge, I'm not giving things away. I'm not becoming less valuable. In fact, I'm just making it more easy for people to engage with me and for me to share with people a list of things that I might not be very good at. I suck at art. Maybe I have some stupid views about game design. And I like being challenged on that because it forces me to defend it. And maybe it's just like, okay, you know what? I've defended it. I'm out of defense. I'm out of things that I can say to make me think that I'm right. And you keep coming at me with ways that I'm wrong. Maybe I need to rethink my stance on this. But if you never share about that, if you're never open about your insecurities, people will just find you closed off and they'll be unwilling to talk to you because they think that you aren't sincere. And I'd rather people think that I am suspiciously too sincere and honest and open. I know that it's uncommon for a lot of people, and especially for game development, but I'd rather that than people feel that I'm closed off and unwilling to talk about the things that are wrong with this industry. And there are a lot of things wrong with this industry.
Yeah. And then related to that, I tended to get more tension, whether it was in a brainstorming meeting or in any other kind of meeting, or even when press would come in, I'd get excited. I'd want to talk about stuff. So I'd get more attention, and people just got frustrated. And I can see that.
Yeah.
I get really into stuff. It's one thing I've been told my whole life. This channel, when people said, how can you do a video every day? And I'm like, seriously? A 10 or 15-minute video where I talk about stuff
That we
in
like
a
to talk
40
about?
something year career? That isn't the hard part. The hard part is, not wanting to post all of them on the day I do it. But there was one video that I keep thinking about. It was called Late Stage Troika, where I talked about the end of Troika. It's one of my favorite videos to do because it's also, I think, one of my more heartfelt videos about this is what game development is compressed into 10 minutes. I recommend you watch it. But one of the things I mention in it is I had recently talked to a programmer at Carbine that I worked with, that I got along well with, and he said, out of the blue, you made me feel insecure. And I was surprised because I was like, well, you were one of the people who hired me. I mentioned that my hiring process was somebody different every day. I met with the producer, and then I met with the two guys who started the company, and then I met with the three programmers because I was going to get hired as a lead programmer. And then they flew in a lot of the higher ups from Austin, including Richard Garriott. I mean, it was.
I met him. Um, even Tim Kaine kind of fanboys over Richard Garriott. But yeah, I mean, I wonder if I've noticed that the better that you get at your job, the more you will make people feel insecure. And you can't feel good. I know it's easy. Maybe you can like privately inside internally feel a little bit good, like, oh, I'm getting better at what I do. But then you think, okay, that's right. That's the exact same way that I felt when I was new to the industry. And I was looking up at these people who had the 10, 20, 30 years of experience. And then you get 10 years of experience yourself, and you're like, oh, yeah, that's right. But now you're looking up to the people with 20 to 30 years of experience, right? So I never want to make somebody feel insecure or make people feel angry. I want to make sure that if we build a company, that we build a company where that's not even a factor. Where if there is any jealousy that somebody knows more, it's immediately replaced by a desire to get better, to learn the things that that person knows, and for that other person to share that knowledge, right? Not to hoard it, but for all of us to get better. Why don't you do a podcast stream with Tim? If I could get Tim on a stream for a podcast, I would love it. I will try to find a way to reach out to him. I don't know if he will even know that we exist. I don't know if he'll have the time, but I really do. I think that if we met and we talked, we could talk about game design until the sun rose on the second day. That's how long. So We'll see. I'll try to reach out to him, see if I can get in contact. But I don't know if I'll be successful. He's this kind of this figure that is the seems too far from reach for just a minor little developer like myself.
It was an interesting, and then on Friday, I called the producer that I had had lunch with on Monday and said, "Hey, where are we going to lunch today?" But he said what was interesting about that meeting is going into it, he was super insecure, this programmer, because he said, even though, I mean, he had worked on WoW, and that's something I told him.
That's
I'm like, you
that's
worked on
big.
World of Warcraft. How would you feel
Yeah.
insecure? And he goes, everything I'd done, you'd done more. I helped make an engine. You've written multiple engines. You had created the Fallout IP, helped create the Fallout IP. He said it seemed like no matter what I had done, you had done more and better. And I even commented that there was another programmer at the table with us who we both agreed was the smartest person we'd ever met in our life and a way better programmer than either of us. And he said, yeah, but even with that, I had more experience than him. We would talk about programming, and even though he was a better programmer, I'd done things. I knew what worked and what didn't, or how to get some things together, or how to connect some disparate systems. So my experience kind of gave me that edge. But he goes,
That's a dangerous way to feel. I mean, I get it, but I don't know. I mean, the opportunity to work. It's like you're coming in. He was coming in for an interview, if I remember, if I'm getting this correct. I think that it's okay. It's good to mention that, but at the same time, I would feel more excitement personally. That it's like, oh my god, I might have the chance to work with somebody who is so knowledgeable and hopefully is very open and not an egotistical asshole enough to share that and to teach me so I can become better. But that's it's just it's a dangerous hole to get into with the way that you feel of feeling insecure when meeting people who have that experience or who have done so much, because everybody who's accomplished a lot didn't accomplish that thing until they accomplished it. And that sounds kind of confusing, but it's like you are nothing until you do something, or you have accomplished nothing until you have accomplished something. So it's like, why didn't you learn what it took for Tim to make his engine? What were the challenges? What did he have to learn to accomplish that? And become a better programmer by learning those lessons that he can give you. Because, a lesson from somebody as experienced as Tim Cain can save you that 5+ years of struggle. Maybe he can say, oh, I learned the hard way that we should have done this instead of this and this instead of this. And you can say, okay, now I will keep in mind that maybe doing X and Y that he said were the wrong ways to do things aren't good avenues to travel down. But at another point, I think you learn a lot by failing, and sometimes you just have to dive in and make those mistakes. Especially with game dev, people can tell you, look, you're gonna fail if you do this, fail if you do this, fail if you do it this way. Sometimes you have to learn that yourself, because your experience of failing that way, you will inevitably gain more knowledge doing it and trying it than if you had just taken the advice and not tried it in the first place, right? Maybe all the people telling me that I will fail to make my company are right. But I will have gained, I've already gained so much knowledge and experience and friends and colleagues and connections by this venture that there's no way in hell I will ever regret doing it. Ever.
but I didn't even have that with you. So it made me very insecure.
Unless I get shot because I'm a CEO.
And of all the people I've talked with since starting this channel, including other people from Carbine artists, where we talked about what the source of all the tension we had, the other Carbine designers that I ended up hiring, and then when I left, I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm abandoning you. We've talked about that.
That sucks.
This one comment from the Carbine programmer I keep going back to because it bothers me. I keep thinking, what could I have done? Now, I asked him, and he said he didn't think it was on me to fix that. And he even said, because they had wrapped themselves in kind of this armor of insecurity, he didn't call it that, but that's what I ended up thinking about it later.
I think it is, yeah.
Since they had wrapped themselves in this armor that was fueled by insecurity, and I was part of that insecurity, any attempt by me to disarm it would probably only strengthen it. So,
I mean, but it is. It's an armor of insecurity, And I don't think that there's a way that you can dispel that, especially on like a first meeting, but maybe it's just that you're sitting next to somebody who is just destined to be more in your field than you are. And I guess that sucks to sit next to. It does. No matter how hard you try, that person that's next to you is going to do more. But you ended up working with that person. You should be happy that you were able to work with somebody who was so capable and extraordinary that you could make great games together and that you had the opportunity to learn even one thing from this person, hopefully. People would tell me I can't make an MMO by myself or wrong. Do it. Do it. Prove them wrong. Simple as that. People will tell you you're wrong. Prove them wrong. That's the best thing that you can do. Many people have told you that you will fail a lot. I mean, I've heard that ever since I was in high school, to be honest. I've heard that my whole life. Just I think that I'm a very individual type of person, or independent, sorry, type of person where I do things in my own way, and yeah, I fail a lot. I really do, but I also succeed if I just keep trying. It's really I just have this persistence where I will bash my head against a brick wall until it breaks, even if it leaves me brainless. Because I'm obstinate, I'm persistent, and I'm stubborn.
So it wasn't on me to fix that. And he brought up game design, which I brought up on this channel many, many times, that in game design, you can't come up with features that everyone's going to like. There's going to be somebody who thinks that feature could have been done better, or I would have liked the game better without that feature. While other people would be like, I wish there had been more of that feature. I mean, just read the comments here. Whenever there's something that I say, I'm talking about a particular feature, whether it's encumbrance or dialogue or combat features, turn based, real time, party, solo. There are people who say, I love it this way and I hate it the other way. And then there's people on the other side of the fence who love it the other way and hate it this way.
And honestly, hearing that a lot can make you feel very insecure, especially as a junior designer where you want to have good ideas, or let's just even say, let's be more honest, you will have good ideas as a junior designer. Ideas that on the surface, without any additional context, are fantastic for a game. But you don't know how to fit it into the mold that the game's vision is needing, and the development timeline, the budget, and the team abilities, or even technical abilities. You could have a great idea that's never been done before, but if you don't know how to fit it into that mold, it's not going to work, and you can't force it. It just won't. It just won't work like that. And so that's where the experience of a game designer comes in, and that's why often knowledgeable designers like working with juniors, because they will have really good ideas that will inspire the experienced developer who gets like this development tunnel vision of, do we have the budget for it? Okay, we have 2 weeks to design it. Okay, there we for me. I can't do this, can't do this, can't do this, can't do this. And you just kind of like, you're so focused on trying to fit your design into this mold that you forget that there are maybe some creative liberties you could take to make it fit, but still be unique. And I think that I've seen a lot of game designers get filtered through that, where they start as a junior, but once they realize that there's all these restrictions of fitting their idea into that mold, they just quit or they become something else, right? They're like, oh, I'm just going to become a coder. That way I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to worry about the stress of my idea needing to work with all these teams and all these constraints. It's a good challenge, you know. If you're a good problem solver, if you like a good challenge, I think game design is great for that. But you will also, I think, get a little what's the word? Be like cynical, or you'll get a little frustrated where it's just like, okay, yeah, I have this great idea, and it will not work in any way in our game, because in order to make it work, we would require more time and money and people than we can afford. And so, oof, bye bye, good idea. Maybe see you in the future in some other game. You won't. Well, I mean, you sometimes might, but in a lot of cases, a lot of your good ideas will just be poofed out of existence until somebody else claims them up, who has the money, has the time, has the people, has the technology, and you're like, shit, if I just had that. And then there you go, you have some insecurity.
And because of that, there's really no good way to make a game that everybody will like.
Yep.
And he said the same thing is here.
There's no
That
bad
not everybody's
design.
going to like working with you, and there may not be a fix for this. And that bothers my programming brain, because the programmer side of my brain is like, I want a solution to this, and my designer social side is like, yeah, isn't there some way I can just break through? There may not be that way, that solution.
Yep.
And what's weird for me to, the reason I have trouble getting through this is I like working with people who are smarter and more experienced than I do.
Me too. I didn't
I've said
always.
this repeatedly on different videos. I like them because they do good work, and ultimately that's what you want. You work with someone smart, they find clever solutions to things. You work with someone experienced, they know where the potholes are in the road coming up, and they know solutions that will work. They, especially if you want to use them as a fallback. We're going to try something new, but if we have to fall back, here's something I know works. I love working with people like that.
It's inspiring and
But this
motivating.
carbon programmer, he said, it may have been because you already had success behind you. He said, I don't know what you were like when you first started, but he goes, you already had success behind you. You knew you could do good things. But these people were in the process of chasing success. They were looking for their
Yep.
big game. And in that sense, I was an obstacle to them. I was this person who they saw as making them feel less, like less of a smaller cog in the gears of making this game.
Yes. Just all of it, yes. And if you are have ever been a junior in the industry, or you might still be one, I guarantee probably 95% of juniors have felt this way, and some still feel this way. Some are still looking for that big break. Some might feel as if their best game was one of their first games, and now they can't seem to find that same success. Again, this leads to insecurity. Some might feel that they take a break from game development and they try to come back, and they see people of similar age or similar experience doing amazing things, working at amazing places with amazing people, and they just can't get in there, and it leads to this boiled evil stew of negative feelings that you can either turn inward or turn outward or both. And in the worst cases, like you said, you feel like you are competing for other people's positions at a company. And that's, God, I mean, I guess that's like the golden desire for certain corporations, right? That are very competitive and want people to compete with each other. I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to be as good as your coworkers. Similarly, as there's that jealousy itself is not a bad feeling. It's malicious jealousy that makes you think that person doesn't deserve it. I deserve it. No, it should be I wish I had the skills of my coworker. So I'm going to work harder and learn from them so that I can become as good as them and stand on that same level. But it's so hard because it requires you to not only be secure enough with what you are doing, but also feel confident that if you do it this way, it's going to be successful. You have to have stamped on your ego enough, right? Because ego is not necessarily just being like an asshole that believes you're right. It could also be the fear of being wrong and of doing something out of fear of it being bad. That is also playing into your ego. It's just so dangerous, and it's really it's if it's something that is not controlled by the individual, because it really is something that, like Tim said, maybe he couldn't do anything. This is a per person sort of feeling, but it can eat away at a team and an individual in really negative ways. And somebody who feels really insecure and like their back is up against a wall, or that they are never going to compete at the same level as other people on the team, may just stop trying. They may lash out. They may be a bad teammate. I mean, this can infect a team if you have somebody who is insecure. And it's really not something that a team can necessarily fix. I mean, maybe you could sit down with that person and say, look, it doesn't matter. Like, the point of experience that you are at now, every single person in this team was at some point. We're here to help you. We're here to help you grow and become a better person and a better worker. We're not here to judge you. We're not saying behind your back that you are not capable. We like working with you as a person. That's why you're part of this team. Just relax, open your ears, and know that it's okay to be wrong in this setting. But that is a really tough culture to develop in your team, a really tough culture to develop internally. It requires specific values and ways that you work, and it requires confidence from the majority of your team to be able to, if somebody's feeling that, to nip it in the bud, right? But anything can set somebody off. Anything. A bad day at work, a bad day at home, a family member dies or is sick, or bad financial situation can really turn people into absolute monsters. And it's not like it's their fault, right? It's like you look in your bank account on the weekend and you see you have $20. It can make you so desperate and insecure that you don't want to lose your job, and therefore you don't want to do anything wrong. This starting point of some of the most toxic, worst feelings that you can have for yourself that can infect an entire team. And I've been there. I've been on that side of the infected person with insecurity. And yeah, it's fucked me over. It has fucked me over personally. It's fucked me over for my team and my work, and it almost fucked me over with my career. And I'm glad that it didn't. And I never want to be that person again. But insecurity is really something you can't let sit. You need to address it, and you need to talk to people who are making you feel insecure. And if they're good teammates, if they're good people, you can start to get through it day by day. But it's a challenging emotion. It really is.
And he also said he knew I would not take credit for things and that I give credit to a lot of people. But he said those same people knew that others would give you credit. And that just makes insecure people feel more insecure than ever, because the people are giving you credit. When people call me Father Fallout, there's probably a lot of people on the Fallout team who bristle. And I didn't invent that. I don't call myself that, but it's one of those things. And if I get that from Fallout, where we all got along really well when we made that game, I can only imagine what it's like for people who didn't get along with me, and then they start hearing things like that.
I mean, and that's a fantastic point to bring up. I mean, you look at game development now, when you look at somebody like, let's put it this way, when you are playing like a Bethesda game, everybody knows Todd Howard. Everybody does. But there are probably people on that team that are like, well, I was in charge of a lot of the art direction, or I had the idea for a system in here that people loved. Nobody knows my name. Where's my time in the limelight here, right? Where's my interview with games journalists, if that matters, right? And again, some of that feeling can be fueled by ego. Some of it can be just a result of a company being so large that it's hard to put individuals in the limelight. I mean, to be fair, Bethesda does make videos where they put a lot of developers in the spotlight for like a video or a developer diary. Those are great. And we want to do something similar with Microraptor Games, where by streaming and having people appear on stream, we can show off other faces. I don't want to be the only face of Microraptor. That was exactly one of the reasons why we started to stream, and why we feel like streaming is an important aspect of our games going forward, even when we may not be able to stream every day. By just putting developers' faces in the limelight, we can make everybody feel as if they are as equally important to the development of the game as the director or the game designers, right? And they are equally as important. Even QA, seriously, give your QA team the appreciation they deserve. They make games stable and feel good.
It probably just makes them feel less secure than ever. Now, in a way, all of this is imposter syndrome, and I did a whole video on that. I have felt imposter syndrome, so I empathize with how it feels to think I'm not good enough, I shouldn't be here. And the fact that I engender those feelings in other people horrifies me.
It's scary. I mean,
but then
I can understand exactly why Tim says that he remembers all the good times getting along with his coworkers, but this one truth that came out sticks with him. I can get it, because he doesn't want to be that person. Nobody wants to be that person unless you're a psychopath. Everybody wants to, if you're trying to make a good game and build a good team with good values and a good culture, all you want to do is have good feelings coming out of that game. But sometimes a moniker like Father of Fallout really sticks, and that can just breed feelings that may have existed deep down but were never acted upon. But sometimes all it takes is that one click, and people can turn into a different person entirely.
I engender those feelings in other people horrifies me. But then the opposite is true. I felt I have a video on being underestimated where other people projected onto me like, you're not very good at this, and I'm like, I've already done this before, or we don't think you're going to do
Yep.
very good at this, and then I do, and I don't want to go up to them and go nah nah nah, but at the same time, I've had some really harsh things said to me in my career. People have commented on some of the videos. They can't believe some of the things people would say to me, and it's just part and parcel with being in the industry for a long time. Eventually, people will say things like that to you.
I've had the same thing, and I'm not claiming to be the world's best designer. I'm far from it, really far from it. But I've done things. I have experience, and it's hard to talk to people who have maybe a bad conception of you or a bad image of you, and you don't want to be egotistical, but at the same time, you need to relay. Look, I do have experience. That's not a guarantee of success, but the things that you want done, I have done. At least trust me enough that I'm not going to let you down and I'm not going to deliver something of horrible quality. All I want is to make a good game. And I've had to remind people of that who have this image of me, this like I've mentioned before, I've had people that I've worked with before say, "Oh, Joey, you just think you're the best game designer in the world." And it's like, "No, I don't. I'm just passionate and I want to make the best game that I can." And I have experience doing some of the things here. That's why did you hire me if you didn't want me to be responsible for these things? Like, I'm responsible, therefore I am going to take charge of this aspect of the game's development and do my best. Simple as that. And it either works or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, I will own up to it and be responsible for that failure. Ever meet the devs of Fallout? I'm going to say, well, I love Tim Cain, the father of Fallout. Yeah, don't do that. But no, feeling underestimated, it really is one of the lead ups to this. And I've been in a team, again, where I've been underestimated. I worked in a place like that, and I'll put it this way. The team that I worked with did not allow me to work in engine. I don't know why. I feel like they thought that I couldn't do anything in the engine. Obviously, if people have watched this channel before, you know that when I work in Unreal, I'm not the greatest, but I know how to do things. I know how to make things, and especially prototypes, right? I didn't get this, and that feeling of underestimation always stuck with me, and it really just made me feel bad. Like, okay, what am I here for then? Like, what did you hire me? I want to be a better person. I want to provide more for this team and this company, but you're not giving me the opportunity to, and so that breeds those feelings of resentment, right? And those insecurities.
But one of the things I said in the imposter syndrome video is it's something you need to overcome yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Other people won't do that for you. No one's going to come along in your career and go, I know you feel like an imposter, but let me prove to you why you're not. You need to figure that out for yourself. And this is what the Carbine programmer was telling me. He was like, you have made people feel imposter syndrome and they need to overcome that on by themselves. It's the same way you did, the same way I did, the same way everybody did.
Yep.
And maybe I can't fix that in other people, but I still wonder what I could have done to reduce it. And quite frankly, it's exhausting thinking like this. And I've thought about it a lot. It tires you out. It makes you go, what could I have done differently? It makes you start wondering if you should regret the way you organized some of your projects or coordinated it or
the challenges
who you put
of a
in
leader.
charge of things. But I keep thinking back to that game design mantra that I say here and the Carbine programmer said to me, which is in game design, there is no one size that fits all. So there's no company that it will be good for every single employee working there. There's no manager that will be great for anyone who can possibly work for that person. So it's one of those things that I think I'm just going to have to accept the fact that I have felt imposter syndrome, I have felt insecurity, and other people have too. And for some of those people, I'm the reason they feel that way. It bugs me, but I don't think I can do anything about it. Anyway, something I've been thinking about for almost a year, so I thought I'd ramble about it for a while.
It was a very good ramble.
See you tomorrow.
It was a very good ramble. Another fantastic ramble. And it is a difficult topic, I think, to talk about. I don't know if there's a perfect way to fix it. I mean, even the most heartfelt, reasonable individuals in the world who have a lot, like people like Keanu Reeves, right? Who hates Keanu Reeves? Well, I bet there are some people that are jealous of that and feel imposter syndrome. I think the more success that you obtain in whatever facet of life, either maybe you just have a really good family, maybe that's it, maybe you're just a happy family, people will feel very insecure and feel some imposter syndrome from that. They will feel jealous and they will feel maliciously jealous. I had that when I even had that when I was modding for Darkest Dungeon. There were a lot of people that felt maliciously jealous that I worked for Red Hook, and when they were modders and they weren't chosen to work for Red Hook. I mean, I get it. It's competitive. There's competition. There's good things that come from this success, and people will always be in some way jealous maliciously with that. And I think that the best thing you can do is just to be humble and to help others, to show that you aren't up here on your whatever throne or whatever level of the pyramid you're on as you move up. Just show that you aren't there to lord over people, that you're just trying your hardest and you will help other people get to that same level. Because I promise you, maybe there isn't a lot of room at the tippy top of the iceberg, right? Maybe President of the United States or whatever, but there is a lot of room on the rungs lower than that, right? There's a lot of space in the industry to be a good game developer. And I promise you, the more good games that get made, the more people that will want to play games, and the more people that will want to play your game. At the end of the day, just make a good game, be a good person, try to help people. It's not always going to work. You can't be a good person 24/7. Sometimes you might slip up. Sometimes you have a bad day. Sometimes the things you said are taken out of context and people can turn on you like that, right? For some reason, there's a subset of the community out there that thinks I'm a transphobe, a homophobe, and what else? Racist. That's the one. Sorry, I forgot the trio here. And I don't know why they believe that, but they do. And maybe they just hate that I had this success back in the day or something, or that I'm moving forward happy and this is not tripping me up. I don't know what it is. Either way, insecurity sucks. I feel bad for people that are feeling insecure, but don't worry, I felt that way too. I think like Tim said, everybody in the game development industry at one point, maybe still do, feels insecure in some way. And what you can't do is let that grow into this toxic pustule inside your brain, because I promise you, you might think that it's just your problem, but it does affect the people around you and it affects the team. And if you lash out because of this insecurity, it can seal doors potentially permanently for you. I've been there. Like I said, I've been there. I'm not going to get into the specifics of the situations, but I've been there. Can't let it happen. So worst case, reach out. You can always reach out to me. I'm always willing to chat and share some of these things, or just help you talk through it and give you advice if I have any. Like I said, if you're a game designer, I can give you more advice than if you were an artist trying to get better. But if you're a game designer specifically, I definitely can sit down and just chat and say, okay, here's where I think you're a good fit. Here's some materials or ways that I would try to get better, and just help you get up to that rung where you can at least feel some confidence that you aren't as bad as you think you are. I promise you aren't. Like I've said before, my initial game designs were, this is my good design. 1, gun shoot feel good. 2, player move feel good. We've all started here, okay? You just have to learn as you go. You really do. All right, guys, here's a link. Did I share this one? No, to Tim's video. And if you're watching on YouTube, thank you for that one. I know that was a lot of yapping, but that was a very good video. A lot of good stuff to talk about there. So thank you if you're watching on YouTube, and I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.